Dr. Philip Huff Jones, head of the American Hunters Association, is now dead. Lynch's actions were without a doubt fueled by her own motives, but undoubtedly, she expected the American Hunters Association to go in a complete disarray once its head decapitated. Regardless of how poor Huff's rule was, and how it had most likely hindered the progress of holding back the scourge, without its leader, things would get ugly. It's been a while, hunters, since I've last been around, and we have quite a bit to go through. But before we do, a quick shout out to this video sponsors, The Night Library. The Night Library is kickstarting a new comic called The Red Hunt, and it's inspired by our very beloved game, Hunt Showdown. Back them when you can. And as far as I'm aware, they are the only Hunt-inspired comic out there, so let's make it happen. Before his death, Dr. Huff was likely conducting experiments with Dr. Elwood Finch, his assistant at Louisiana Asylum in Jackson's. I would have expected his fellow hunters to have been told these experiments were to understand the scourge and to better combat it, but it is greatly believed by the hunt community that Huff's and Finch's ambitions interfered with holding back the scourge. But with Huff dead, it's now time to leaf through a new chapter in the overall story of Hunt Showdown. Until now, we've been encountering all sorts of supernatural phenomena, such as the hunters gaining numerous powers and abilities, a number of entities within the Bayou of Louisiana and America in general, along with all manners of rituals and even certain unknowns we've not come to understand fully as of yet. The most known and famous amongst the unknowns, which is also said to be behind it all, would be the sculptor. Another such example are the Loa Lynch lures in the process of creating the newly used serums. Unlike a lot of the hunt community that believes the immolator is a creation of the sculptors, there are some that believe the immolator is an entirely independent Loa, such as the one Lynch lures in for the creation of her serums. And like the immolator, so is today's subject, the moon. We know little to almost nothing of the aforementioned moon, or if it's the moon at all. Within the entries of Traitor's moon, it is mentioned only twice, and within the entries of Serpent's moon, it's shown to have control even over snakes. But let's ignore Serpent's moon for now, and focus on the entries of the Traitor's moon. The moon is first mentioned during a dialogue regarding a wife reporting her husband missing to a detective, claiming the husband was allegedly responding to the moon's callings and bathing with it. Second mention concurs its involvement in a ritual surrounding the moon phases performed by a certain person named Mr. Orwell Sherry, the new administrator of the American Hunters Association. It's important to note, many others were found dead at the lake where her husband was reported to be bathing with the moon. But let's put that aside for now to first finish talking about Mr. Sherry. Mr. Sherry had easily made himself administrator of the American Hunters Association and gained the trust of both the hunters and most peculiarly Dr. Finch. For him to have accomplished this, Mr. Sherry must be an extraordinary person capable of replacing Dr. Huff's prior position as both the head of the American Hunters Association, which would imply providing the hunters with promised power and glory to ensure the loyalty, and Dr. Finch's partner in whatever experiments he and Dr. Huff was once conducting. I've mentioned Huff's and Finch's ambitions allegedly interfered with countering the scourge, and within the recent entries, Mr. Sherry claims all is for smiting the scourge that has enshrouded New Orleans, to eradicate the corruption that has prevailed and killed so many. but at what cost? Are Mr. Sherry's intentions any different than Huff's? Mr. Sherry seems to have ardent knowledge of the occult. This is known to us when he proceeds undergoing a ritual requiring certain inscriptions drawn on the ground and a sacrifice. What's amusing is that the sacrifice must be of significant importance. Mr. Sherry promised all hunters power before going through the ritual, but those who demanded something out of nothing were introduced to a world of pain before eventually taking their own lives. Only those providing a sacrifice truly bearing meaning were then provided with the means of potential. One such hunter, among a few others, was Mary Anjankov. I doubt Mary's importance other than delivering this fact, but for the sake of knowing, Mary was an experienced hunter who had gone into the bayou countless times for the sake of her sick husband's medicine. She was promised a cure for her husband's scarlet fever before going through the ritual. Little did she know, this was nothing but the devil's deal, and while she survived the ritual entirely unscathed, she had later returned to offer what is believed to be her own husband's heart to the moon. I am, as of now, unsure of the why, or if it was a coincidence, but this all took place at a barn that seemed uninhabited to the hunters, save for Mr. Sherry. A boy I had hoped of taking a bigger role within the Hunt universe, but surely enough, the latest event Serpent Moon proved just that. The boy's name was Kevin Linus, and he lived alone in a house besides the barn after both his parents had passed away. While all of this was taking place, Kevin was watching from within the house, watching hunter after hunter taking their own lives. But it was the ones that succeeded Kevin pitied the most. Little Kevin continued inspecting the events without even realizing the role he was already playing. Mr. Sherry confronted Kevin in the upcoming nights, asking to join him in conducting the rituals for a bit of coin. This is where Mr. Sherry had miscalculated the dangers in doing so. I mentioned earlier the various men going missing and the woman claiming her husband had been speaking to the moon and bathing with her. The moon was out looking for her champion, and as Mr. Sherry was teaching Kevin the basics of the ritual, such as etching the symbols on the ground with his cane, flames engulfing Kevin whole but doing no harm was a sign of her champion finally being chosen. The moon had spoken to Kevin, whispering the harm Mr. Sherry was causing by undergoing the ritual, and as she did, provided Kevin a weapon. Mr. Sherry had no time to admire the discoveries that took place before Kevin shot him in the knee, swiftly evading the next shots and leaving the scene. All that I've mentioned could signify a lot of things to come to the Hunt universe. The moon signifying a possible new threat, but surely signifying a new chapter within the Hunt lore. The weapons it provides signifying new ways of fighting the Scourge, and most likely new skills such as hunter traits to be introduced to the game, and Kevin signifying a new faction within the grounds. All which I will cover in the next video's topic, the Serpent's Moon.